It's the kind of life or death moment that makes you wonder, what would I do? Trapped in a narrow gorge, a raging fire bearing down, and no escape in any direction. That was the terrifying reality confronting marathon runners Heather Scott and Ellis Caffin when a firestorm engulfed them and their fellow competitors in the remote Kimberley region of Western Australia. 2 women were critically injured and 3 other runners badly burned after this extreme outback challenge became a desperate race to stay ahead of the fire. Survival came down to an extraordinary act of courage. Defy every instinct of self-preservation and rush headlong back through the flames.
What time are you going to do?
Yeah. I'm going to do 22.
High spirits and a bit of healthy competition before the race.
Bugger, it's 17.
Fine, I'm doing 18.
17.
I'm doing 14.
Heather Scott and her partner Ellis Caffin are among the 41 competitors about to tackle the Kimberley ultramarathon. 100 gruelling kilometres across some of the toughest terrain in the country.
Sure, it's going to hurt sometimes, but you know, you just keep plugging away and have a great time and have a really good race.
We knew we weren't going to be first. We just expected to hopefully do it in under 24 hours and see a lot of the Kimberleys because it's just gorgeous. Do you guys want to tell me how stinking hot it is out here?
Well, you know, it's not the Sahara, but it's up there.
But most of these super fit competitors would not cross the finish line that day. Clear signs of danger were ignored. Desperate warnings to organisers failed to get through.
It was coming over the range. It was about 2 kilometres away, and it would be on them in 2 hours.
The athletes were sent directly into the path of a firestorm. And when it was over, Turia Pitt and Kate Sanderson would be fighting for their lives. Others, like Michael Hull, lucky to survive with severe burns.
So I heard this big noise. I thought it was a road train, and I looked up and I just saw this massive wall of fire and smoke.
It's painful now to think of I get to get up every morning and I get to go to work and I get to do all these things that they don't get to do.
For all its rugged beauty, this is the sort of country you have to take seriously. It's stunning, but it's also harsh and very unpredictable. However, for the ultramarathon races, those are exactly the elements that make this the ultimate adventure course. They knew the risks, there's no doubt about that, but none had any warning that they'd end up racing to save their lives.
It is stinking hot. They put us running through a fire, so...
Did they warn you about the bushfires?
It got a brief mention, but not something that was impressed upon us that was, vitally important or some, a big danger issue to be very careful of.
So they assume it's safe, despite gathering smoke and then the roar of flames.
Quite a decent grass fire that you can hear quite strongly because the breeze is up.
When did you first realise that something was going terribly wrong out there on the course?
It was very late. It was to the point where the smoke was right in our face and we could hear the fire and we thought, this is actually a problem. We have to get out of here. We just climbed up a 150-meter embankment so that we could get out of the line of the fire. But otherwise, our trail was sending us right through there. And
Ellis wasn't smarter, we'd be down there right now.
Could you think clearly? Did you know really what to do in those circumstances?
I had no clue. I definitely wasn't thinking clearly. I was for sure panicking. I think that if Ellis hadn't been there, I think it would have ended badly for me.
So we're still up on the ridge line, and now it started climbing up around it.
You know, you've realized at that point you're not gonna outrun it, and at that point I had the thought, this is it for me. This is my life done.
Behind them is Hal Benson.
We'd just hit the bottom of the valley here, walking along the flat.
Yep.
And probably about 300 or 400 metres away, saw the fire just smouldering on the right-hand side of where we could see the path of the course.
Another competitor, Michael Hull, joined the group, and together they decided to abandon the course and head for high ground.
So we headed for one of the escarpments because we thought there was a better chance of survival up there because there was a little less fuel to be burnt.
From this point here, was there anywhere else to go?
Absolutely not. There was no way of outrunning it, the way it was heading.
Hal leads the way as they desperately scramble ahead of the flames. But Michael and the girls become trapped halfway up the hill.
The girls at that stage were on a ledge just below me. I just turned around to say, let's keep moving, and heard a jet engine coming up. The fire just leapt up over the ledge, and I've run. Could feel the heat on the back of my neck, and I was sure that was it.
The others below had to make a split-second decision: be overrun by the flames or charge back through the fire front.
What we did instantaneously was just stop and just ran back in through the wall of flame because we knew that the flame that was high, when you're on the other side of it, there was nothing left to burn. So if we can just get through that, it was our best way of survival.
It was the same life or death decision that Heather and Ellis were facing less than a kilometre away.
It was a case of we may have to jump through flames and get burnt somewhat. It's better than sitting there and waiting, for the worst, so that's all you can do.
For Stamps, this is what it's come down to. Walking into a burnt area to avoid getting burnt ourselves.
We were very lucky. I felt like I had just escaped death.
You really think that?
Yeah. I panicked. I know I panicked, so.
But Kate and Turia weren't so lucky when they leapt through the fire.
Kate was just a little bit behind me, and I think the flames just licked her just as she turned, so hence the back of her was just horrendous. And then the other girl, Turia, I think she stumbled on a couple of rocks, so she was actually in the fire just for that little second longer as well. So that's why their burns were so horrific.
This is where Kate and Turia lay severely injured in amongst the charred rocks. Their burns are simply horrific. They can barely be touched, let alone moved up or down the hill. They are in unbelievable agony, but it would be hours before they could be safely rescued.
The girls are just screaming in pain, and it's like we were helpless, nothing we could do.
So you start the walk and you start calling for people, actually shouting. And you go from that really big high of being so excited you're alive to just a gut-wrenching low when you hear someone call out, "Help, we've been burned."
The only way to reach the stranded runners is by air, but it's an hour and a half before race organisers launch their chartered helicopter.
Let's give it a red hot go.
And even then, it can't land on the steep rock face, and a second chopper is called in. Pilots Paul Cripps and Bryn Watson quickly realised the urgency of the situation.
So it was really vitally important that we did get them off the cliff face. I have no doubt that they wouldn't have survived the night if they had have stayed out there.
And you were their only hope?
Absolutely.
For Paul, there's only one option. Land on a single skid and try to hold the aircraft steady. Finally, more than 4 hours after they were burned, Bryn helps the injured girls, Kate and Turia, climb on board to be airlifted to safety. Both remain in intensive care in hospital.
I've been a paramedic for the last 6 years, and I've seen burns, but those are some of the worst I've seen. And what was amazing is they were still walking at that stage, and just, with the severe burns, it was quite a testament to how tough those girls are.
2 weeks after this tragedy, and the awful truth is slowly beginning to emerge. It just didn't need to happen.
Were you angry that there were no warnings, that no one had told you that this fire was raging right toward you?
Yeah, I was because I felt that someone was cavalier with my life, and that's not okay.
Now, you gave a warning, didn't you?
I did.
Local farmer John Story flew his gyrocopter over the race trail at 10 o'clock that morning and spotted the fire building. To him, the danger was obvious.
Horrified is a good word.
Because you knew people were on the ground.
We just, how do we warn them? How do we stop them? We couldn't get hold of them on the UHF that we normally use up here. Unbeknown to us, it was a different frequency they were using.
John finally managed to deliver his warning on an aircraft frequency, but for whatever reason, the race proceeded.
As soon as you sent out that warning, should the race have been cancelled?
Certainly stopped going in. They could have rerouted it if the right messages and the right understanding had got there.
For the survivors, thinking about those who weren't so lucky is an ordeal that won't go away.
You want a hug? You do.
It's tough going for everyone who returned home from the Kimberley, but it's a daily fight for Kate Sanderson and Turia Pitt as doctors treat their burns. It's for them that Heather, Ellis and other competitors are telling this story.
Because they're going to need a lot of help, aren't they?
They're going to need a lot of help. Life is never going to be the same for them.
Hello, I'm Tara Brown. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our extra minute segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.